Hey guys, welcome to another Racer X Roundtable. I'm your host, Mitch Kendra, and I'm joined once again by Cody Darr, VA photographer, and retired slash veteran racer, Travis Delnicki here in the Northeast. It's his home race this weekend. We'll get into that in a little bit. But we are going to be talking about the SMX Next Supercross racing again. This weekend we will have our final qualifying race in Foxborough for the championship final race in Pittsburgh coming up here in just a couple weeks. So we're going to recap the Birmingham race and we're going to jump into the Foxborough entry list for this weekend. So just starting it off, let's give some uh, quick thoughts on the Birmingham race. I'm just going to note whatever was going on with this race, you did not want to be in first. It was like hot potato. Whoever was in first just ran into issues. We had a couple of crashes. Landon Gibson got out to the lead. He had a crash. Alex Dvortsov, who looked like he was going to be set up for redemption after his Daytona flat tire while he was leading. Dvortsov then had a crash, handing his lead over to his teammate, Ryder Malinowski. And then he had a crash on the final lap. And Enzo Timmerman, who was like the 17th race leader of the race, eventually came home and took the checkered flag for his first race win of the season. Um, all right, so let's just jump into it. Travis, what did you see at the Birmingham round?
He pretty much summed it up. It was absolute chaos out there. But there was some good rides. I mean, obviously Temmerman getting a win was big and honestly it finally gave him the opportunity to show actually how good he's been because he's been coming from the back every single weekend. So finally, got to get some credit for how well he's been riding by getting the win. But um, he basically Fowler did what Temmerman has been doing all season by coming up in the back and getting up to a podium position. So like, yeah, it was chaos, but then the guys on the podium, it was almost like you want to start like 10th. So that way you can let the chaos happen up front. So just start 10th and then ride around everybody that crashes.
Yeah, obviously you
Uh,
don't see anybody crash, but it was just guys were just running into issues with a bunch of different sections. I think pretty much everybody that crashed in a different section of the racetrack. It was just a tough track in general. So Cody, what are your thoughts on the race?
like you guys said, it was really completely just chaotic. I mean, Enzo did what he needed to do again, though. He had a mid-pack start. I think he started around P7 or P8, and then he kind of just slowly, methodically worked his way up through the pack, put himself in position again, and took over the lead when Ryder had his misfortune. And what can you say? I mean, I know it's not the way you want to win a race, but I mean, he put himself in position, in podium position, and was ready, sitting right there to take over, the lead with any small mistake that Ryder was, had. So, um, yeah, Enzo rode great. Luke Fowler rode awesome. He even he started, I think, further down than Enzo did, and then he just somehow snuck his way up through all the chaos. I don't even think they showed him on the broadcast. He wasn't even on TV at all. But at least he got his podium time, got to talk on live TV. So yeah, it was cool and. Yeah, it was a pretty wild night. I mean, there's a lot of crashes in qualifying and all that chaos. So yeah, I'm just glad to see most riders get through and on to the next round.
Yeah, you mentioned the crash in qualifying. You said Vincent Way had a big one.
Yeah, Vincent Way posted on his Instagram. He had a huge crash in qualifying one. They went off the start, they went around the first turn, they did the second turn, and they were going down the long rhythm. And I think he kind of came together with an all rider. I don't want to say officially because I couldn't tell, but looks like they came kind of together and that he just got shot off the berm, literally into one of them foam walls that are along the side of the track, which luckily they were there, or else it probably would have been more major of an issue for him. So but yeah,
Yeah,
there's a lot of chaos going on throughout the night and yeah, thankfully everyone mainly got out unscathed and on to the next round.
yeah, it was kind of crazy. Like you mentioned Fowler. I think he was kind of underrated. Like personally, me watching from home, I kind of was watching the results and you can't see all the guys on the TV broadcast, but you know, this guy would crash, this guy would get a block pass. It was kind of the results were shuffling. And at one point, I think Fowler, I swear he went from like seventh to second, and I couldn't tell if it was a timing and scoring glitch. And I was just like, oh, we'll just wait a second. And all of a sudden, like the race was coming to the end, and they're like, Luke Fowler second. And I was like, oh wow, like I didn't even. He kind of just, like you said, was consistent, rode his way up there. So that was a pretty strong ride for him. He got a podium last year, so that was his first podium of the season, but his second podium in the program. So he was pretty pumped about it. But yeah, Enzo Timmerman, like you said, his what 2-2-1 race results there. Landon Gordon, who won the first two races, he crashed on the opening lap. I think it was just a little bit of carnage. It was kind of just a racing incident, but he went down over the going down the over under bridge and he got stuck under his bike. Um, and we kind of talked before. There's so many fast guys. It's kind of whoever gets a start can win this race. But man, there was just a lot going on. But pretty much when Gordon was down, it was like, all right, we're going to see a new winner here. And then I think at one point we had maybe 4 or 5 different guys that could have taken the race win that eventually went to Enzo. Just one real quick thing to note on Enzo, like I said in our last video, I think he's kind of showing that kind of the steadiness, and he's had the speed, but he's really got the steadiness down so far. He mentioned afterwards that, I was kind of like, what's your training program like? What have you been focusing on? And he said he's been training with his grandpa, which I don't know if you guys knew that or not. That was pretty wild. Like some of these guys are at this facility or they're training with this guy, and he said he's been training with his grandpa, and he said he's really just been doing the same program that he's been doing this off season, except that he's just been able to put a full off season together. He said like I think 3 months now he's been healthy after some injuries. So he said him and his grandpa have just been grinding at the track, but they've just been putting in the time and it's been paying off. But it was just funny to mention him training with his grandpa. I don't know if you guys knew that or not, but I
You
didn't know
you
that. So
know
I
what that
didn't know that.
you know what that kind of reminds me of is Eli. Eli and John Tomac. I
Yeah, I was
mean,
like, oh, yeah, yeah.
they've done their program for so long when he was an amateur and John kind of had him under his wing and yeah, now it's like in the family and Enzo's kind of under grandpa's wing and that's awesome. I didn't know that, but that is like just adds a little bit more to his story.
Yeah, because I feel like he's kind of quiet, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, is your grandpa somebody we should know about? I'm like, did I miss it on your grandpa? But yeah. But we mentioned the consistency, like, and honestly, like this race was a little bit chaotic, but really the consistent guys came through, and that was kind of the theme of the night. I mean, it was the last Triple Crown race for the pro guys, and Seth Hamaker won 2 out of 3 races, but his ninth in the first race when he tipped over, his 911 finishes, emergency call because he got off the podium there. He's fourth place. So consistency kind of was the theme of the night, and then obviously Sexton in the 450 class, he won 1-1 and him and Cooper Webb were going back and forth in the third race. And Sexton's like, you know what? I learned from my mistakes in Arlington. Let's just be smooth, get it to the finish line. So he took a second place in the final race, but he took the overall win. Let's just look at the results here again. Obviously, we mentioned Enzo Timmerman took the win. Luke Fowler second place. Tiger Woods snuck up into third. I know he was up there. He kind of had a good start, kind of got shuffled back a little bit. They're seriously, dude, I think literally from first through 10th, it was like every lap, it was just like a new guy was in a new position and it was block pass here, a little tip over here. This guy kind of got bumped off the track. But Tiger Wood ended up getting his first podium of the race, or excuse me, first podium of the season in this program. That was a really sneaky good ride. And then afterwards, we learned he's on Phoenix Honda, which I think pretty much came about just days before the race. So just a lot of moving parts of this race. Clark Robbins came in fourth. Again, he was kind of out there a little bit, got shuffled back, ended up in fourth right off the podium. And then Ryder Malinowski, fifth place after he had that lead going into the final couple turns there, and he actually went off the track where Hammaker crashed, Cooper Webb crashed there, Barsha went into the net. That turn was giving guys problems all night. So I don't know if you can say that was like a youngster move or rookie move, whatever, because it was giving everybody problems all night. Landon Hartz came in sixth there on his Yamaha. Cade Johnson came in seventh. That was a pretty solid ride for him. Vincent Way in his first showing in this program. You mentioned he had that crash earlier in the day. He was all good, so he came through eighth, which was good to see. And then Travis's guy, Russ Boucher, he got ninth place in a solid ride. And Grayson Townsend rounded out the top 10. Just looking at the rest of the results, what did you guys see here between the results, the racing? What do you think, Cody?
I was really sh surprised with Clark Robbins. obviously I kind of got to watch him a little bit down at Moto Sandbox, and he was, I mean, I know he's super fast. He's got super silky style, and he's just super kind of methodical. But yeah, Clark had a killer ride. He started P3, ran second for a while. He was in the top three for half the race. I think he made a mistake and fell back a little bit, but then he worked his way back up to P4. I mean, that was pretty much a ride he really needed. He's been looking for a ride like that. So that's a big confidence booster for him. And then going up one more position, Tiger Wood, I mean, that's kind of what we were looking for out of Tiger. He was, you know, a highly touted amateur like we've been talking about coming out of the super minis and stuff. And now kind of getting his feet wet with Daytona and then being on more of a traditional Supercross track where he's probably been riding and training on more traditional Supercross track at the Dog Pound. It's good to see him finally have a good ride. Um, let's just let's hope he can um, make it back for the rest of the series.
And we'll touch on that here in a little bit when we hit the entry list, but we believe he had to go back to Australia with visa issues. So he will not be racing this weekend in Foxborough. Um, anyway, touch on that in a minute. But Travis, what did you think of the results, and anything else you'd like to touch on there with top 10 or other guys in the race in Birmingham?
Yeah, I mean, it was really surprising to see Malinowski up front. Um, like he's been really hot and cold, but I mean, he was solid until the simple mistake. I mean, I want to say, didn't he try to do a rhythm that maybe he wasn't even doing the whole race? And he tried that in the last lap, and it cost him. But he rode really solid. Like I was really impressive. We haven't really seen like I haven't seen like that type of riding from him yet. So that was really good. And then, farther down the race results, Landon Gibson, I mean, he he had control of the race early, so and I had we had just been talking about him on the last show we did where it was like he's a lot better than what his results have been showing, and he almost had it, he almost put it all together, and yeah, the whoops got him there, and also in the back of the pack, you know, Fedortsov, like God, man, he's riding so good with so little to show for it. So yeah, I mean those two guys, they rode good, but the results don't show on paper. But yeah,
Yeah,
Malinowski still ended up with a fifth, but that definitely doesn't tell the whole story either. So it's like I see coming into this weekend like a lot of guys looking for redemption.
yeah, and like you mentioned, it almost is like, okay, the moto gods are going to give Alex this one here because he had the issues in Daytona, and then he crashed, and it was like, oh man, what the heck? And then, yeah, it was just unfortunate. And you mentioned, yeah, Gibson. That's what we've kind of talked about, man. I have no, it's like he's just lost off the start. Like I never see him, and all of a sudden, like late in the races, like that's how he is at Loretta's. Like he always just charging to the last minute. That's how he was at the Moto Combine last year. Like I feel like Gibson just gets buried off the starts, but then he charges. He's really gritty when he is, putting down hot laps late in the race. And man, this one he got out front. He had the hot lap. He was going good, and then just a mistake in the whoops. And I think Cody, you said he had a bike issue. I don't even think he was able to get. He got back up, but I don't think he remounted his bike. I think he had some kind of bike issues. They had to push his bike off, right?
Yeah, so he had broken his clutch perch off when obviously his bike slammed the bike down to the left there. And I'm sure his bars were bent up, twisted up a bit. But yeah, it literally broke his whole clutch was just hanging hanging off the side of the bike. It's not funny, and that's unfortunate. He's a great kid, and I know he really wants to prove himself out there. And I know, he's got the skill to do it. Just got to clean up them little mistakes here and there, and just, ride a little bit smoother and not be as erratic. But yeah, he's a great kid, and I feel bad for him. When he went down, I seen them yellow flags, and I was like, oh no, what happened? I was,
Mm.
hoping this was the race he was just gonna have control and and put it in the bag. But unfortunately, it's mistakes happen, and there's always this weekend though.
Yeah, I feel like he took a pretty big fall. If I'm not mistaken, he fell like backwards on his head. I don't want to say it's a good thing that he wasn't able to get back going with his bike, but maybe that was a blessing in disguise. That he was just, his race was done there. Yeah, we've definitely talked about, dude, he's got the speed. If he can just slow it down a little bit and figure it out, dude, he's going to be an animal. Because he's got that grittiness, the late race charges. And one thing to note on him, like we mentioned before, he's super young. Like he just turned 16. He's getting so much experience with these fast guys, older guys, all sorts of different capabilities, and um, guys were doing different rhythms in this track, which was fun to see. So some of these younger guys, man, if they do the Supercross, SMX Next Supercross program and figure it out when they come to actual Supercross, like it's going to be real exciting to watch. Real quick, another guy that had a big crash late in the race. We're going down the results. He's 22nd officially. I think he had a lap crash on the second or third lap. Was Deacon Deno, and this was his first showing of the year. We are kind of curious to see what he would do on his KTM. Man, he had a big ugly crash in I think it was the first rhythm section when they came around after the start. A couple laps in, looks like he just got cross-rutted or some kind of issue there, and then man, he went sideways, slammed on really hard. He wasn't able to finish the race, but looks like he's okay on Instagram. He's going to be racing this weekend, I believe. So again, he kind of escaped injury there. That was kind of a gnarly one, but yeah, just the track was tough. The different rhythms were cool to see, but the track was just biting again. These amateur kids all the way through the 250 guys and 450 guys. So just a wild day, but yeah, just
Well, I
good.
was excited that I mean he had a great start. Like just watching and recalling it back, I think he came around fourth or fifth.
Mhm.
And in this second rhythm and a long rhythm, he think he made a mistake, got high on the berm, then just kind of messed that next rhythm up, and it just fell back. And
Mhm.
I don't know, maybe he just was. I wouldn't say excited, but this is his first time out there and under the bright lights, and might have just kind of caught up to him after, a little bit there, and obviously just going down like that. I know that's not what he wanted, but he did look great throughout the day. It's just unfortunate mistakes like that, and that's why this program's here, so these kids can learn now and try and shake these cobwebs off and get used to it before they get to turn pro.
No, that's a good point because some of these guys they come out swinging right away. Some of these guys it takes them a race or two, or maybe even a couple races in the program to really get comfortable with the program. I mean, like we've talked about before, it's a whole simulated race day schedule between the qualifying, the free practice sessions. You have their classroom sessions. They meet with the AMA officials. It's kind of a busy weekend. So I'm sure a lot of these guys are going through this race day for the first time, and then you're out on the track. Like, yeah, there's guys that are going to shuffle you back, and then you kind of get antsy. So some guys it takes a little bit longer. Some guys jump right into it, but I think it's definitely good to get the experience. And like we mentioned, the track having different options, I think was kind of cool too, because that opens up to guys to get experience. Hey, this guy's in my line. I'm gonna have to take a different line, jump a different rhythm. I think that just opens up some more experience. I'm sure Travis, you could talk about that too a little bit. Like when you're in a line and then somebody's either passes you and gets in front of you, takes your line away. I'm sure Supercross is a little different from motocross where you just had to go fast. Like Supercross, you got to this is a triple, I need a triple this, or this is a double. You have to be aware of the track and your surroundings when you're going through these long rhythms.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can't get too far ahead of yourself, and that's kind of tough, especially for these younger kids. They just get too excited and then they start just racing the guy when they're not really thinking about, what line they're taking or even like what obstacles next, honestly. It's just yeah, it's tough to control like the emotions with also, keeping things like step by step in your head, So yeah, that's kind of probably why we see some crashes. But it's also what's gonna help these guys learn. So yeah. Yeah, that's very important to yeah, when you're in a battle to kind of keep everything in check.
Yeah, I think Chase Sexton mentioned it after this past weekend in Seattle. Like sometimes there's a race where you want to be out front and you kind of want to run away, and sometimes there's a track where you almost want to be in second because the battle is so close. The guy behind you is learning from you, if you're out by 10 seconds ahead of everybody, you can kind of just cruise and do your own thing. But if there's a guy right behind you, he's kind of learning your line, seeing where he's faster than you. But it's definitely a different experience to, have these different tracks. We talked about Glendale was so hard packed. This track looked a little bit harder. It didn't look super, East Coast super rough and ruddy, but it looked like it was like a little bit of combination of it was rough, but it was a little bit of slickness, but not like hard packed Glendale, but a little bit of both conditions. And then again, we'll touch on Foxborough. That could be interesting with conditions this weekend. Then just a couple other notes on that Birmingham race. Grayson Townsend rounded up the top 10. Jonathan Getz, I know he's pretty younger, still smaller guy, but he's getting a lot of experience. He rounded out, or he came in 11th, which seems like a pretty solid ride for him. Liam Olaf was in 12th. A couple other guys, like we mentioned, Landon Gordon had that crash early in the race. He came through 16th. Fedortsov was 17th. And then again, Landon Gibson with his crash while leading, he was 19th. And then Deacon Deno, 22nd. Obviously, it's tough to see these guys' crashes, but for the most part, everybody's up and okay. We did get word from the Club MX team that Justin Turner had a little wrist injury. He's going to sit out this weekend in Foxborough, but he should be able to make the Pittsburgh finale here in a couple weeks. That's what the team told us. So he's already qualified because he had that surprise ride at Daytona when he got on the podium. So that's pretty cool. So that's a good thing. Although he won't be there this weekend, we should see him in Pittsburgh. So any last closing thoughts on Birmingham before we switch over to Foxborough?
As far as I really enjoyed watching it. I mean, like you were even saying, kind of Glendale was like a little bit hard packed, and then they come to East, like Birmingham and Alabama, it's a little more East Coast. Although they got the full treatment throughout the day because it was like super dry and almost to the point where it was like dusty and like blue groove hard pack throughout practice. And then when they get to the night show, they put enough water down to kind of last throughout the night. And it was a little greasy and slippery and snotty for them. And that's where maybe that did, lead to some of the mistakes that we've seen and cause some of the crashes that like Fedortsov, where he was hitting a triple coming to land and just going over that inside hump, and his front end just, I mean, knifes out of nowhere. And
Yeah.
I'm sure he wasn't even expecting that. Like Ryder probably wasn't expecting to, come up short on that rhythm that he, was trying to do. And that's what, some of these kids were maybe just caught off a little off guard. And now hopefully we'll see some different track conditions this weekend. So give them something new to experience.
Yeah, Travis, any closing thoughts on the Birmingham round?
Yeah, it was just like honestly, it was like the first super exciting racing that we've seen. I mean, I think I touched on that last time. It was like it kind of has been seemed like that everybody was trying to survive, and I think we saw these guys kind of going for it a little bit more in Birmingham. So I think as these guys are getting the reps in, I think we're also seeing the level start to rise a little bit too. So and the intensity. So that's something to see if that stays going forward.
Yeah, I will agree. I think, it's again, we kind of touched on it. It's hard to see like everybody on the TV broadcast, but I think they were on the battle for second or third or fourth, whatever it was, and Gibson went down. You could kind of hear like other things happening as they were watching one specific battle. That was kind of cool. You could kind of hear the crowd reacting, or unfortunately yellow flags, but there was almost like, oh man, what's going on over there? Like get a different camera angle. Like there was kind of that, I want to say the battles that you almost asked for in the last video, Travis. You were kind of like, hey, we want to see some battles. And I think that race delivered them. I felt like literally every lap it was this guy blocked past this guy, small mistake, this guy messed up the rhythm. They were literally just, it was a lot of exciting, just back and forth, literally the whole 8-minute race.
Yeah.
All right, and then switching our focus to the Foxborough round. This will be the final qualifying race. And again, the qualifying, Landon Gordon has a couple wins here. Enzo Tournament has a win. The qualifying races mean nothing. Whoever wins this weekend could be a huge win, and they could DNF the final championship race in Pittsburgh. We kind of talked about that before. It kind of opens the doors for other guys that maybe haven't won, but hey, you never know what could happen. And we might see some interesting conditions this weekend. Travis, what's We're a couple days out, but what's the early forecast looking like for this weekend?
Right now, it's looking like we're getting rain kind of starting Thursday and all the way through Sunday, honestly, but not, it doesn't look like downpours or anything like that, but kind of just consistent rain throughout the end of the week and into the weekend and pretty low temperatures. I mean, like around night show time Saturday right now, it's showing like low to mid 40s and some rain. So, yeah, pretty miserable conditions to be riding your dirt bike in. And yeah, I mean, the like we saw this past weekend in Seattle, like the track crew knows what they're doing, but once it starts raining, once the tarps are off, it's kind of just up to Mother Nature, honestly. So it'll be interesting to see, how much rain we get. It's not looking, like I said, it's not looking like a substantial amount. It's kind of more just the timing of it.
Yeah, I think that people were shocked that Seattle wasn't a mud race, but dude, the SMX track crew guys are so good with what they do. Like they build the track in Seattle, they covered it, press day was canceled, and everybody's like, oh, it's gonna be wet. And man, even race day morning, there was puddles on the track. They were trying to pump off the puddles. Like track ended up being like pretty dang good. And I think obviously that could change if it races when you mentioned when the tarps are off during the heat races and main events, and everything for the night show. But man, leading into it, it's going to be, right now, it looks like it's going to be a little bit wet. Which again, if that does happen, it could be, different conditions these guys will race in compared to the Glendale hard pack in a dome. Some East Coast Daytona is just Daytona sand and all sorts of stuff. And we could throw in rain. It could be another factor. One other thing to touch on, uh, Travis, this is your home race. Is there, even though these guys are still amateurs, was that, being a local guy at a Southwick, say, or a Foxborough Supercross, is there extra nerves and added pressure? Do you think these guys are going to be dealing with, you know, Russell Bucherri? Is he going to have extra people under his tent? I feel like we heard Levi Kitchen at Washuga last year was kind of like, hey, that, kind of added a little pressure for the weekend. It kind of, he maybe didn't perform as well as he'd like to. You think some of these guys that are from these areas where we're racing are kind of feeling that pressure to do extra good for that weekend?
For sure, I definitely think Russ is going to have some more attention, throughout the day, like just hanging out in the pits and everything. So I would expect him to try to replicate or better what he did in Birmingham. But honestly, like it's definitely not the same vibes as Southwick. We don't have as many guys racing, Supercross around here. There's literally Russell and then we have James Harrington racing on in the 250 class, but other than that, it's really that's kind of all we got. So yeah, it's not quite the same as Southwick, when everybody that races NESC is trying to qualify and it's and a lot of us do. So yeah, it's a little bit different vibe, but honestly, there's a lot of guys from Cody's area, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, that area. So a lot of Cody's guys are probably going to be pretty fired up for this one.
Yeah, real quick, you were racing at Southwick over the weekend, weren't you, Travis? How'd that go?
Yeah, it was freaking miserable, man. It was about the same type of weather that we're going to see Saturday night. So yeah, but yeah, I did race Southwick on Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah, so Cody, what are you looking at the entry list? Kind of who are you looking almost maybe to have a breakout rider? You kind of want to see a little bit more from this weekend in Foxborough. Is there one specific rider maybe you have on your mind?
Really would like to see more from Clark. I know I talked about him a little bit earlier, but I'd like to see him get up on that box. He's definitely got the potential to do it. I think he's even capable of winning these races, like we've been saying. If you these kids, a lot of these kids, if you just get the start and that clear track, I mean, I know it wasn't a great show as far as leaders last weekend or Birmingham. But, I think if these guys get the clear track, it means so much. And, you did see Landon Gibson. As soon as he got the whole shot, he checked out and he was just riding his own race until his small mistake. And I think, if any of these kids, but I just want to see Clark. I really want to see Clark do good and really back up his fourth place ride and really prove to the factories and all the people there that he can do it. And it'll be a good one because He's from Jersey, so that would be a good race for him if he can lead into Pittsburgh with a good ride. That'd be awesome for him. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how Clark does.
Travis, who do you kind of want to see more of this weekend?
I want to see Liam Olaf kind of get into the mix. I feel like he's been riding pretty well, and I had pretty high expectations for him coming into the season. In Glendale, and I think he has a top five. I think, but it wasn't anything like he didn't get out front and be in the mix to lead laps or anything. Kind of like came from the back. So I really like to see. He's somebody I'd like to see kind of get up front and kind of show what he can do because I feel I'm pretty high on him as a what he can do in the future, but he hasn't really shown what I think he's capable of so far this year.
Yeah, and I'm not exactly sure where he is on like terms of Supercross pro license points, but I feel like he's like right on the cusp of one of these guys that, if suddenly one of these guys was racing pro the next weekend, it wouldn't be a surprise. Like he's old enough, he's been, racing pretty well at the AB level the last 2 years here. So he's
Well,
one
he
that
had
could be making that jump real soon.
he had a few breakout rides at Loretta's on the NSA Yamaha team, and I mean, oh my God, he looked so good when he was there at Loretta's, and I knew he was going to be someone to watch going forward into the pro career. He's just got that dog in him, as some of those guys say. He's got that dog in him, so I'm interested to see how he does too.
Yeah, and he's a second generation rider, which is pretty cool to see as well. And then real quick for me, I think Kate Johnson was my surprise from Birmingham. His seventh place. I think he had a broken collarbone in the Glendale round, so he wasn't able to race that day. That was like a couple. I think it was about a month and a half, maybe a little bit under that. Between rounds, he was able to get healed up, come back in. He posted on Instagram. He learned a lot, got a lot of experience. So that was good to see him in the top 10. And then for me this weekend, I think Grayson Townsend. I kind of want to see a little bit more out of him. He was 10th in Birmingham, which I feel like that was a little bit underrated. I mean, that's pretty solid getting in the top 10, but he had some good rides at Loretta's. I know he was just coming off of the B class championship at Loretta's though, so I know he's maybe a little bit younger compared to these older guys, but I feel like he's going to be one of those guys where it's like he could get a good start and run up front and it'd be like, oh man, like, and people are going to be turning their heads, who's this kid and stuff. So, but I'm excited to see him um, hopefully join the mix this weekend. Um, and then for the most part, we have a couple new guys here. For the most part, we have returning riders. We do have a couple of notes. Unfortunately, Caden Manier is not going to be racing this weekend. We had heard he was going to be racing, and then he had an injury, a collarbone injury. He kind of was able to get that healed up surgically with surgery and everything, so he's good to go. But we heard he ran into some visa issues, so he's not going to be racing this weekend, unfortunately. And then his teammate Caden Dudney, he got landed on actually by Olaf at the Daytona round in qualifying, kind of got banged up a little bit there. Cody, you think he's back riding, but he's not going to be racing this weekend, which is a good sign that he's back on the bike, right?
Yeah, from at least the few videos I've seen on his social media, I think he's riding around on the turn track at least a little bit.
Mhm. Yes.
So it'd be good to see him back soon.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about like Travis, you had him kind of hyped up as more of a motocross guy. We kind of were waiting to see how he's going to do in the Supercross portion of this SMX Next program. But maybe when we get to the pro motocross section, like the moto combines, maybe he's going to do a little bit better out there, doesn't he, for outdoors?
I would definitely expect him to be in the mix to win. It definitely sucks that this year in Supercross has gone the way it's gone because by this time next year, when SMX Next starts up next year, it's going to be like he's going to have even more expectation than I think he did coming into this year, and but he still doesn't even have much more experience, than he did coming into this year, which is unfortunate. But yeah, I definitely think once we get into the combines, he's gonna be tough to beat.
Yeah, and he's again, well, he's one of those younger guys too. Like he came out of the B class at Loretta's, so it's not quite like panic time because he's still pretty young, so he can get some more experience. Um, and I think we mentioned Justin Turner has an injury that is going to hold him back from just this weekend. The Club Next team's playing the long game. They're going to have him at the championship finale in Pittsburgh. And then no Tiger Wood this weekend as well. He had to go back to Australia and get some stuff done with his visa, so he's not going to be there this weekend. So who knows? Maybe we have another podium, new fresh face on the podium, or another race winner, which should be good. I think these races have been exciting. I know there's a lot of fast guys that we think can win, so there's kind of that level of like, man, who's gonna do well when the gate drops. So, and yeah, this Birmingham race just so much back and forth. That was really exciting. So any of the excuse me, any closing thoughts from you guys here before we wrap this up?
Right. I mean, we talked about his crash in Birmingham, but one guy I'd like to that I think could be on the podium this weekend is Vincent Way. I mean, he's definitely, you know, he's done one round, so we'd only have so much to go off of, but everybody says he's flying at the test track and he's definitely got the skill set to be on the podium. So I think, yeah, I want to see Vincent ride to his potential this weekend, and I think he could be good. So yeah, that's probably the guy I'm most like. I want to see what he can do this weekend.
Yeah, I back that up. I like to see how Vincent does, especially now after getting his first race in and under his belt and going through a wild crash. He kind of is like, all right, got that out of the way. So now I'd like to see how he does. And I know we didn't really get to touch on him too much, but I'm excited to see a new fresh face, Gavin Betts from the MX6 racing team. This will be his first event out there. He's from, I believe, in New York, so it'll be sort of a home race for him. But yeah, it's gonna be exciting to see him out there. I've gotten to watch him around here in the local scene lately, and he's a kid. He absolutely rips. He won a title down at Minio's, and he's got the skills to pay the bills, as they like to say.
Yeah, and you said you saw him at RCSX who's doing pretty good down there, right, too?
Yeah, he finished third in the 250 road to Supercross and um, right behind Renfro and Gordon. Gordon dominated today, but yeah, um, he was ripping. And yeah, that's what Renfro would be. I'm excited to see Renfro out there. I seen he was on the list, and I know we didn't get to talk about him much, but yeah, those kids rip, and we're excited to have them out there on the gate with them.
Yep. And you guys can tune in to Peacock to watch the action live. Again, it's going to be an exciting race for the pros and for the SMX Next Supercross guys. Thanks for watching this and tune in this weekend to Peacock. See ya.